Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us.
In recent years, the political landscape of the United States has been shaped by a controversial figure, Donald Trump. His rise to power left an indelible mark on many communities, but perhaps none more so than the Muslim community. The atmosphere during Trump's presidency was charged with tension, uncertainty, and fear. For Muslims in America, this period felt like walking a tightrope, unsure of what each day would bring. As Trump campaigned for the presidency, his speech often singled out Muslims, portraying them as potential threats rather than integral members of American society. This narrative sowed seeds of fear and division, leading to policies that targeted Muslim-majority countries and increased surveillance of Muslim communities. The infamous travel ban, Muslim ban, was just one of the many measures that made Muslims feel unwelcome and unsafe in their own country. The initial reactions from the Muslim community ranged from disbelief to dread. Many wondered if they would be able to continue living their lives with the same freedoms and rights they had always known. Would their places of worship remain sanctuaries, or would they become targets? The future seemed uncertain, shrouded in a veil of anxiety and apprehension. The question lingered: what would life be like under a leader who seemed to see them as the enemy? When Donald Trump took office as the 45th President of the United States, he wasted no time in implementing policies that would drastically affect the Muslim community. One of the first and most controversial of these policies was the travel ban. Announced in January 2017, the travel ban targeted citizens from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, them from entering the United States. This policy, often referred to as the Muslim ban, sparked widespread protests and legal challenges. Many saw it as a blatant act of discrimination against Muslims, thinly veiled as a national security measure. The travel ban wasn't just a standalone policy. It set a precedent for further actions and rhetoric that targeted Muslims. For example, there was increased scrutiny and surveillance of Muslim communities and places of worship. This made many Muslims feel like they were under constant watch, simply for practicing their faith. The administration's policies also impacted refugees, with many Muslim refugees being denied entry to the United States, leaving them in precarious situations. Trump's speech throughout his presidency often painted Muslims in a negative light. He frequently used terms like radical Islamic terrorism, which many felt unfairly associated Islam as a whole with terrorism. This rhetoric wasn't just about words, it had real-world consequences. It contributed to an atmosphere of fear and suspicion towards Muslims, fueling Islamophobia and making it easier for discriminatory policies to gain support. The consequences of these policies and speech were profound. They not only affected the lives of millions of Muslims in the United States and around the world but also altered the perception of Muslims in American society. Many Muslims reported feeling like they were no longer seen as equals, but rather as potential threats. This shift in perception had far-reaching implications, affecting everything from personal relationships to professional opportunities. The impact of Trump's policies and rhetoric on the Muslim community was deeply felt both within the United States and globally. During Trump's presidency, Muslims experienced increased levels of fear, discrimination, and uncertainty. These experiences were shaped by the administration's policies, as well as the broader societal climate that became more hostile towards Muslims. One of the most significant consequences of Trump's tenure was the rise in hate crimes against Muslims. According to the FBI, hate crimes targeting Muslims surged during Trump's presidency. Muslims were often subjected to verbal harassment, physical assaults, and vandalism of their property. Mosques across the United States reported incidents of arson, vandalism, and threatening messages. These hate crimes created an atmosphere of fear, making many Muslims feel unsafe in their own communities. The travel ban, which targeted citizens from predominantly Muslim countries, had a devastating impact on many Muslim families. The ban prevented families from reuniting, halted educational opportunities, and disrupted lives. Many Muslims who had planned to travel for work, study, or family reunions found themselves suddenly barred from entering the United States. This policy not only affected those directly impacted but also sent a message to the global Muslim community that they were unwelcome. Muslim students and professionals also faced increased discrimination. In schools and workplaces, Muslims reported feeling marginalized and targeted because of their faith. Students experienced bullying and isolation, while Muslim professionals faced workplace discrimination and job insecurity. The negative rhetoric around Muslims contributed to a culture where discrimination and prejudice were more openly expressed and tolerated. Globally, Trump's policies and rhetoric had far-reaching consequences for Muslims. Travel ban and other restrictive measures strained relationships between the United States and Muslim-majority countries. Muslim refugees and asylum seekers, fleeing violence and persecution in their home countries, found themselves with fewer options for safe resettlement. The reduction in the number of refugees accepted into the United States left many vulnerable individuals in dangerous and uncertain situations. The media played a significant role in shaping the experiences of Muslims during Trump's presidency. Islamophobic rhetoric in the media reinforced negative stereotypes and contributed to a climate of fear and suspicion. This was further exacerbated by social media platforms, where hate speech and misinformation about Muslims spread rapidly. Combination of traditional and social media narratives created an environment where Muslims felt constantly under scrutiny and attack. Despite these challenges, the Muslim community showed remarkable resilience and solidarity. Many Muslims organized and participated in protests, advocacy efforts, and community support initiatives. Organizations such as the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, worked tirelessly to defend the rights of Muslims and combat Islamophobia. Muslims across the country and the world rallied together to support one another and stand up against discrimination. Even after leaving office, Donald Trump continues to have a strong influence on American politics and society. His speeches, statements, and actions still shape the views and actions of many people. Trump's support among his followers remains high, and his presence in the political arena continues to be felt. Trump's recent statements and actions have caused concern among the Muslim community. He often speaks about issues related to immigration, national security, and law enforcement, in ways that make Muslims feel targeted. His continued use of harsh language when talking about Muslims and immigrants adds to the fear and anxiety within the community. For example, Trump has repeatedly expressed support for reintroducing policies similar to the travel ban. He has also made comments suggesting that he would increase surveillance on Muslim communities if he were to return to power. These statements worry Muslims because they suggest a possible return to policies that many feel are discriminatory and unfair.